Pasar informal di Afrika Selatan menghadapi tekanan setelah serangkaian serangan terhadap pekerja migran membuat ribuan warga asing meninggalkan negara tersebut. Kepergian mereka memicu kekurangan tenaga kerja dan mengancam keberlangsungan sejumlah usaha kecil. Di Johannesburg, aktivitas perdagangan masih terlihat berjalan, mulai dari pedagang melayani pembeli hingga pekerja memperbaiki furnitur dan menjaga toko. Namun para ekonom memperingatkan, kondisi tersebut dapat semakin sulit dipertahankan karena banyak sektor bergantung pada tenaga kerja migran. Ekonom Dawie Roodt menyebut, para migran memberikan kontribusi besar bagi ekonomi Afrika Selatan, baik sebagai pekerja maupun pelaku usaha. Menurutnya, meningkatnya sentimen xenofobia dapat menghilangkan energi ekonomi, terutama di sektor informal. Gelombang protes anti-migran sebelumnya menuding warga asing sebagai penyebab meningkatnya kriminalitas dan pengangguran. Pemerintah Presiden Cyril Ramaphosa mengecam aksi main hakim sendiri dan berjanji memperketat pengawasan perbatasan serta aturan imigrasi.
After that would take me 80,000 rands. That purpose, if now I'm going to report to the police station, the policeman is going to take that purpose to Sunset. I have a document to stay here for my site, but I think about another friends from together to the Mozambique. I don't have any problem to leave this country because I have endowment to South Africa. I'm a citizen here in South Africa.
On the side of business, I think it's tense for everybody because remember when people are finding shops closed when they want to buy, they also get frustrated because they're expecting to buy bread next to their door. But now you find that when the shop is closed that is next to them, it means that they have to travel a little bit more. So it frustrates them a little bit more because now you have to catch a taxi when shops are closed next to you. Then you have to buy a little bit further. So I think also for the businesses as well, they're also frustrated because you've got stock that you want to sell. It might expire because there are less customers because you're closing. At some point, you're opening few hours, you have to close. So that's the problem.
Each and everyone is doing business. Each and everyone is doing for his family, is doing for everyone to get a success behind that thing of business things. So each and every foreigner who doesn't have any papers in South Africa, please organize your papers or please go back and fix your paper things and come back and let's live together as Africans together.
Immigrants in South Africa is actually contributing far more to the economy than what they're taking out of the economy. Obviously, there are criminals. Obviously, there are immigrants that now do not contribute much to the economy. But there's a lot of studies that suggest that the contribution of immigrants to the South African economy is much, much more than what you're actually taking out of the economy. Also, what is critically important, if you look at the studies that suggest that criminals, in many instances, the majority of immigrants, in many instances, are actually entrepreneurs themselves, and they employ South Africans, and they contribute to the South African economy. So with many of them leaving South Africa because of the recent, let's call it what it is, and it's xenophobia against immigrants in South Africa will be losing that economic energy, so to speak, and it will have a negative impact on the South African economy, and especially on the so-called informal part of the South African economy, which is a very important part of the South African economy. I'm afraid that the South African economy is likely to pay a significant and a quite a dear price for what recently happened to immigrants in the country. Many of these businesses of immigrants in South Africa, they do business in the informal part of the economy. And a typical example is that they will have little shops where they will sell things, soap and bread and milk and stuff like that. And those kind of outlets are not available anymore in many instances. And that simply means that people will have to make use of transport. It's quite expensive, and go to bigger centra to buy the necessary day-to-day things that they need. And that will have an impact on the individuals and households as well. So I'm afraid those guys that are not functioning in South Africa anymore, and many of them were very well organized, whereby they could provide goods relatively cheaply to South African consumers, they're not there anymore in many instances, and that will have a huge impact, not only in the economy, but on a personal level to many, many households as well.
Jelajahi cara baru mendapatkan informasi. Download MetroTV Extend sekarang.